Hi, I'm Tamari, the Astrofashionista, and I'm here with a video about the Los Angeles fires and the astrology of the whole situation. Now, I want to make a disclaimer. I'm a born and bred Angeleno, three generations deep. Los Angeles is my hometown. It's the only place I've ever lived, and I love this city. I'm heartbroken by what's going on. My high school almost completely burned down. I have friends that have lost their homes, been displaced. This is not a joke. It's not anything to take lightly. When I thought about doing the astrology of these fires, I wasn't feeling it at first because I never want to use this as an opportunity. Like I don't want to say like I'm clout chasing or trying to get views. That's not what I'm ever here for. I'm here to promote peace, healing, and wellness through my astrology practice. That being said, astrology has been the single most important tool for my own personal healing. And I think the more we understand about what's going on in the stars and what the energy is, it can help us understand why we're experiencing certain things. So I physically have been sick and I'm feeling a little bit better, and I think I'm ready to kind of dive into this. It's really interesting. It's really blatant when we look at the astrology. I'm going to share my screen so we can go through it together, especially if you're a lover of astrology and you're a student and you're studying. I think this will be helpful. So I'm just going to share my screen. We're going to look at the chart of Los Angeles, California. Um, and so this is the date the settlement happened. I got this online, September 4th. Los Angeles shares a birthday with Beyonce and my grandfather, Big Dad. Shout out to both of them. And just briefly, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this chart. When we read the chart of like a country or a state or a city, this is like the birthplace. So it kind of gives the vibe of that location. So some things I want to call out. Los Angeles is a Libra rising. Now, your rising sign in a natal chart is your how you come across. It's the perception that other people get of you. Without knowing anything else about you, this is what they're getting. And so this Libra energy, Libra is ruled by Venus, and Venus is the planet of beauty and love and relationships, and it's a very glamorous sign because it's Venus ruled. And so to the outside world, Los Angeles is a very glamorous place, refined, where arts and creativity, those are all Venus things. Venus, the ruler of the chart, is actually in the first house. So when the ruler of the first house is in the ruler of the chart is in the first house, it doubles down on that energy. It makes it a very strong energy. So, Los Angeles is very alluring. This is a place where people come, you know, to fall in love with, the beauty and the glamour of it all. Now, Venus is right next to Neptune. Neptune is a higher octave of Venus in astrology. It's an outer planet, so it was discovered later. But Neptune is connected to film, amongst a lot of other things, in visual arts. And so we know that Los Angeles has been it's known as, the capital of film and cinema in Hollywood. And so this is very literal, which I think is very interesting because it represents it so well. So we're going to start there. The sun sign is Virgo, and Virgo, so Virgo's in the 12th, the sun is in the 12th house, which is interesting because when the sun is in the 12th house, that's it's a very clandestine house. It's a house of secret where things are hidden. There's a lot of hidden secrets in Hollywood. We all see those old, documentaries of things that were going on behind the scenes. Not everything is what it seems. And so that's very sun in the 12th house. It's in Virgo. There's a lot of Virgo is an earth sign that's about building and being meticulous and taking your time and being detailed. And so there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes in Los Angeles to make it what it is. It's a well-oiled machine. There's a lot of business and industry that happens here. Mars rules the second house of money and income, and it's in the second house is ruled by Scorpio. Jupiter's there. Jupiter is about abundance and excess and luck. So a lot of money to be made here in the city. And one thing two other things I want to call out, maybe three things, and then we're going to move on to the actual fire part. Mars is in Capricorn. in the fourth house. Now, Mars in a day chart, this is a day chart because it's 9:18 a.m. and the sun is above the ascendant. And so in traditional astrology, that's considered a day chart. And Mars in a day chart is the most problematic planet. It's hot, it's fiery, it's aggressive, it's assertive. Now, Mars in Capricorn is considered to be exalted. It works well there. It's very, industrious there, but it's still Mars. And so Mars in the fourth house is associated with home and family, ancestry, business, enterprise. And so Mars in this chart rules the seventh house of partnerships. It rules the second house of money. So making money through, something that's old and long lasting, because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is about time and things being long lasting. So there's this mix of, this history that the city has. There's this connection to family and home. Saturn, the ruler of the fourth, is in the third house, which is, communication, learning, teaching, writing, and Jupiter reaching people across the world. Sagittarius is about, the link to Jupiter is about global business and, just reaching foreigners. So this is one of the most famous cities in the world. And then this Uranus at the 10th house is interesting. The 10th house is ruled by Cancer. The moon is in Aries. Let's take a step back. Moon, the heart of the city is partnership. The moon is about, the moon is also connected to mothers and family and home, but it's in the seventh house in Aries. And a moon in Aries is a very fiery energy. And this will be important as we talk about the fires themselves. But the moon rules the 10th house, the highest point in the chart. Now, the midheaven in astrology is the MC. And I feel like I'm going all over the place. I'm trying to get through this really fast so I can move on to the next part. The MC is the highest point that the sun reached at the moment of our birth. And it has to do with, in a person's natal chart, it has to do with how you want to be seen in the world, your career, your destiny. And that's in Leo. And Leo is another sign that's associated with film and performance and wanting to be the center of attention. And so this is very much the purpose of Los Angeles, being in the center stage. But this Uranus is in the 10th house, and the 10th house is similar to the midheaven, meaning that it's, it's a career house. But Cancer rules it, which is home and family. And so that moon in Aries rules over this 10th house. And the Uranus in Cancer shows that there's like a lot of diversity. There's a lot of change in regards to the industry. And, even though it's a city built on this whole film and Hollywood and TV, it's constant movement. It's constant change because Uranus is in the 10th house. So things move really quickly. Nothing lasts too long. If you come to the city in LA, yes, we have a lot of old buildings and there's a lot of beautiful things that are new, but a lot of the city is old, and a lot of the homes here, if you live here and you're from here, are old unless people renovate them. So there's this really interesting dynamic about LA having this like tradition and the Saturn ruling the fourth, but then there being so much newness coming in and out, restaurants opening all the time and closing and new businesses. So we're going to stop here in terms of the natal chart, and I want to go on to the fires. And I'm concentrating on the Palisades fire, and there's been multiple fires. There's like 6 of them. I'm recording this Thursday night at 10 p.m. on January 9th. And so as of today, I think there's 6 fires happening. And the Palisades was the one that really, blew up. There was even a fire around the corner from where I live in Baldwin Hills, and it was put out very quickly on that same day. But this Palisades fire, I went to high school there. So, there's a lot of, this is all on my timeline. It's a very emotional time. Our school almost burnt all the way down. At times it was reported that it had completely been lost. We have friends in the area, again, that have lost their homes and been displaced. So I'm concentrating on like that start of that fire. And that was on Tuesday. And so if we look at the chart, there's immediately the thing that comes to mind when I was driving and I started hearing about the fires. I was leaving the Valley area, and Mars on January 6th, which was Monday, I believe January 6th was Monday. Let me just double check that. Yes. Mars is retrograde currently. Now, Mars, again, I mentioned, is problematic in day charts. Mars had retrograded back into Cancer. It's been in Leo. It went retrograde in December of 2024. And now Mars is at 29 degrees, which is a degree of crisis in astrology. The one degree can be a degree of like beginnings. 29 degree, the 29th degree represents, I can't talk, endings, and it can be crisis energy before it moves. Now Mars is opposing Pluto. One thing I didn't mention about the natal chart of Los Angeles is that Pluto is in Aquarius. Now, this is really important because Pluto is now back in Aquarius for the first time since this time. And it's a big deal that Pluto moved into Aquarius for all you people that aren't following astrology very closely, because it's going to be there for about 20 years. Aquarius rules people, humanitarianism, large groups, and Pluto rules destruction, transformation. It tears things down to build them back up. So we're going through a time in humanity where a crises, I don't know how you say it in plural, but crises are happening before we reach this other side of things. And so this is obviously a crisis. Now, going back to the chart, Mars and Pluto. So Mars rules Scorpio and Aries in traditional astrology, and Pluto rules Scorpio in modern astrology. After Pluto was discovered, it was assigned to Scorpio as a planetary ruler. These planets are the most aggressive in terms of energy in the zodiac. Mars is very direct, not in the zodiac, in astrology. Mars is a very direct aggression. It's fast, it's assertive, Mars was the god of war. It's about causing havoc. It can be good for using energy and getting things done and being very energetic and being action oriented. But on the negative side, it can be very destructive and fast. And Mars in Cancer is debilitated because Mars is exalted in Capricorn, the opposite sign. So Mars in Cancer doesn't do well. Now, what does Cancer rule? Cancer rules home and family, if we were going to narrow it down to two words. Your nest, okay? So Mars is in the sign that is the most connected to family in the home structure. Pluto is in Aquarius, like we said, and Mars is opposing Pluto. Now, this is, and let me go back to the Palisades fire because it's 1 degree off now. Now it's in Aquarius, Cancer. If it was in Leo, if Mars was in Leo at 1 degree, it'd be exact, but it's only 1 degree off, so it's very close. This alone is a very explosive energy, meaning that around the world, Mars opposing Pluto is a very high energy destructive time for us all. It's a time where we can be frustrated. It's a time where big dramatic things can happen, and obviously this is a huge dramatic thing. Now, that's one thing. And the interesting thing about what this Mars is doing, and I'm looking at my transit, my synastry chart here, is that Mars is making a positive aspect to the moon in Aries. Now, Aries is about fresh starts. It's a fiery sign. It's the first sign of the zodiac. And Mars is making a positive aspect, but not very close. So this moon is important because the moon rules the 10th house. So everybody's watching Los Angeles on a grand stage, trying to understand what's happening. So the moon, I think, is an important transit to watch when we want to guess when these fires might be over. But Mars is not only making this opposition to Pluto, but it's also squaring the nodes in the chart. Now, the nodes are here. So the North Node and the South Node. The nodes in astrology are destiny points that show where we're headed. So the North Node shows what spiritual lessons we're supposed to learn in our chart, and the South Node kind of shows what we came in knowing and what we need to release. Anytime there's a planet that's kind of at the bendings of the nodes, which this Mars is, it's an important time. And so Mars squaring these nodes tells me that this Mars is kicking off something that's going to change the course of Los Angeles. This is an important situation, and we know that this is the most important, most destructive fire in the history of the city. And so this Mars is kicking that off. So that's one aspect. Then I want to go to the sun down here in Capricorn, because we're in Capricorn season. So looking at the transit chart, the sun's at 17 degrees and Mars is at 17 degrees in the Los Angeles natal chart. This is so significant. The sun is the ruler of the 11th house in the Los Angeles natal chart. 11th house being groups, technology, any type of thing that's seen by a lot of people would fall under the 11th house. And that sun is right on the natal Mars in the 4th house of home and family. So there's this double down of this home and family influence of people are literally being displaced from their homes. And the crisis that has kicked off with this Mars is impacting people's literal living situations. Okay, so we have the sun there. That's another thing. Let's look at Saturn. So Saturn is in Pisces currently in the 6th house, and the Saturn is opposing the sun in Virgo. Now, Saturn in astrology is about hard lessons, sacrifice. It rules structures needing to be rebuilt. Like if we were going to think about how to rebuild, Saturn would be involved. It rules time, old things, and oppositions in astrology can be difficult. Squares are difficult and oppositions are difficult. And so the Saturn is opposing the moon in Virgo in the 12th house. Now, I haven't gone down this path of looking into the arson reports. There are, I think before I started recording this, I was seeing things pop up on social media about, arsonists being arrested. That is very interesting. One, because I think that aggressive Mars Pluto energy would lend to something like somebody wanting to destruct the city. But also this 12th house sun, the 12th house is about secrets and hidden things, and that Saturn is opposing it. So, there's hardship coming from something that's being done in the background. So that's how we can interpret that. The Saturn is also squaring natal Saturn in the chart. So natal Saturn is in Sagittarius in the Los Angeles chart, and Saturn is squaring natal Saturn. And Saturn in squares are difficult aspects. That means something needs to be worked out, something needs to be rebuilt. So we have that. But Saturn is also sextiling the natal Mars, which means that it will be rebuilt. Obviously, this is one of the largest cities in the world. There's no doubt about that. But this will ultimately be a chance and an opportunity, because sextiles are about opportunity in astrology, to rebuild a new foundation for the city, since this Mars is in the 4th house. So we have that. There's also a positive aspect to Jupiter. Now it's not exact by degree, but it's applying in the 2nd house. So even though this is a very big, it's a big deal that this is happening, it's really going to affect the economy. I think people are, I've been seeing on social media, and I've been arguing with a couple of people, and I don't argue on social media, but I'm really emotional about this situation. They're mad because they think everyone's rich that is affected. That is not the truth. Yes, some of the areas that are on fire are very affluent, but that doesn't mean that everybody there is rich or that it's not affecting people that are not rich. So let's just get that straight right now. And so this is a big devastation, and this will have a ripple effect on the economy of the city, of the state of California, one of the largest economies by state and city in the world. So it affects everybody. So this is a big deal. But this will be a chance to rebuild the economy of Los Angeles, especially since there's been a lot of departures in terms of film production. The film industry is not thriving as it has always in the past. And I think this is really going to be a new opportunity, especially when this Neptune, so Neptune right now is in the sixth house. In Los Angeles natal chart, it's transiting in the sixth house. Neptune moves into Aries in March, and that is going to put the Neptune right by the moon in the Los Angeles natal chart. Remember, I said this moon is important. The moon is the ruler of the 10th. Now, what does Neptune rule? We said film. That is going to revamp the film industry. It's going to give a rebirth and just a time of renewal to film and the reputation of the city. We know the Olympics are coming. This is actually going to help. I believe Neptune's not always positive, but it's so close to this moon that I know it's going to affect how Los Angeles is seen as a city. Now, I didn't mention that because the North Node is in Aries in the natal chart for Los Angeles, the nodes are currently in Aries and Libra as I report this, but they're moving into Pisces and Virgo in a couple days on the 11th. Now, this is important because it's crazy that this is happening right now because we've had the nodes in Aries and Libra for all of 2024, and that sets the eclipses. So eclipses in astrology bring those big dramatic situations that happen that change the course of history in our personal lives. And so we had an eclipse in Libra on October 2nd, pretty close to the ruler of Los Angeles's chart. And it fell in the first house. And so that was a solar eclipse new moon. New moons are about new beginnings. And so we had this eclipse there. But now the eclipses, and we also had an eclipse, a lunar eclipse last March 2024. I'm getting on my years. Yeah, 2024 on the Neptune, which again is film. So we've had these new fresh starts that were happening, and eclipses sometimes take a time to develop. It might be 6 months or so. Now we look at October, and now we're in 2025 of January. The eclipses are about to move into Pisces and Virgo. Now, Pisces is ruled by Neptune in modern astrology, in Jupiter in traditional astrology. And it's going to be moving into the sixth house of work and service and daily routine. So that means instantly we're going to get to work here in the city, rebuilding, everybody coming together, businesses, structures, permits. It's a lot going to be happening to get everything back up and running because we already have a housing crisis here in LA. We have a huge homeless population. This is a big deal. And so we don't have time to waste. Sorry, my throat is messed up because of I've gotten sick because of the fires. Water break. So the nodes are going to be moving into the sixth house. The south node is going to be moving into the 12th house. And I'm just going to speed this up a little bit. So if we look at the nodes, so the nodes are going to move into the 12th and 6th house. Now, the south node will eventually cross that Virgo sun. And later this year, it's going to be close in degree. And so that means that there's literally a release of the identity of what Los Angeles once was, because South Node is about release, and it's forming a new identity. So this is important because the eclipses are falling in the house where Los Angeles sun, the identity of the city is, and the sun rules the 11th house of groups in the public. So everybody's going to be watching as the city rebuilds. It's going to be a big deal. It's going to attract a lot of new opportunities. So I think ultimately, even though this is a crisis, it is going to be a good thing in the long run, even though this is terrible what's going on now. Now, another thing, because I do want to take it back to a little bit more of the astrology, is that this Uranus in Taurus. Now, Taurus, Uranus is in the sign is about 7-year transit. It's been in Taurus. It's moving into Gemini this summer in July for a little bit. It's going to go back into Taurus, and it's going to be in Gemini again next year for the next 7 years or so. So Taurus rules nature, the earth, the world. It rules earth, let's just say that. And so there's been climate change. Uranus and Taurus, and we knew astrologers, we've all talked about when Uranus goes into Taurus, there's going to be climate issues happening more than ever. There's been climate issues happening more than ever. The fire, even if it is arson, was exacerbated by the winds. And so we had terrible winds here in Los Angeles. As soon as I walked into my garage, I just felt, I was like, today is a weird day. I felt it on Tuesday. I didn't know these fires were going to happen, but I felt it. Like just leaves were all flying as soon as I stepped in the house, out of the house. This is also opposing Jupiter in the second house, bringing change to the finances of the city, instant change and disruption. And then it's also squaring Mercury in the chart, which is causing a lot of confusion, misinformation. We had a text go out today that was we had an evacuation notice that went out to all LA County residents. Now you can imagine if you're not in an area where the fire is happening, you're like, oh my God, now I have to evacuate after dealing with all these things. So I literally was, about to pack bags and not know where I'm going. Like, does my whole family needs to go? So a lot of misinformation, a lot of confusion. Uranus squaring that Mercury right now. It's tough. So let's talk about maybe when we might see a positive change or a change in direction. So I was talking to my friend Crystal. We were texting about it. She's an astrologer also. And we were talking about the moon. Now the moon on the day of the fire was in fire sign Aries, like very literal, conjunct the node, the North Node, this destined situation that happened. Moon rules the 10th, the highest point in the chart. Everybody sees what's happening. That moon, so if we speed it up, I'm just going to go day by day. So the moon moved into Taurus. Actually, let me just go to the transits because it'll be easier to do it that way. So the moon moved into Taurus. As of right now, as I'm recording this video, it's in Gemini. This is the day a lot of the confusion has, been going on. Lots of information being shared and spread. Gemini is information, communication, talking, speaking, writing. What I am hoping is that by the time this moon, since it's the ruler of the chart, reaches Cancer, which tomorrow is the 10th, that's Saturday. And no, tomorrow's Friday. And then Saturday is January 11th. Water break. The moon will be in Cancer. The moon is exalted in Cancer. It likes to be there. It's at home there, or not exalted, it's dignified there. And it will be with this Uranus. Now, I'm hoping that this brings a change, a quick change in direction of the fires, meaning that they get them contained. And it happens like one day, or, Fridays, it could still be a little bit hectic. That Gemini energy moon, it's going which way or that. We don't know. Things are fires popping up because a new fire popped up today. I'm hoping that by Sunday, the moon in Cancer will hit that Uranus and there'll be, a change in direction. That's my hope. Also, because there's been reports that the winds are going to be bad next week. And what we don't want is that all these fires are going on and then the wind gets worse and the situation gets worse. So I'm hoping and praying for that. Now, that moon also, because it's in Cancer, will also cross Mars or oppose the Mars. That's not always a great thing because, again, that Mars is the most difficult aspect in the chart right now. Because if it reaches Leo, that's another fire sign and things could get more dramatic. And that's what I'm hoping we can avoid. So let's hope that the situation improves over the weekend, especially by Sunday. I think that would be ideal because Mars right now is retrograde, so it's not moving from this location. I mean, it'll be at 27 degrees. It's not a fast moving Mars, so we still are in the proximity of this opposition to Pluto, even though it's not exact, it's still kind of close, but it'll be a little bit further away by Sunday. So my hope and prayers is that it's wrapped up by Sunday, meaning mostly contained, because I doubt all the fires will be out. But we got to get it down. This is like crazy. Another thing is that Mercury is currently in Capricorn. It was in Sagittarius. Sorry, it's late here and I've had a long day. Mercury was in its last trek. It's been in Sagittarius for forever, child, because it was retrograde in December, or yeah, November, December. So now it's finally moved into a practical sign. And so I think that might help with stabilization, especially since Mercury rules over the sun in the chart. So that Mercury also, I think, by Sunday, it'll be a little bit closer to that sun to make a positive trine aspect. So maybe that's positive news. You know, using logic to kind of fight this, banding together, businesses being able to get back up and running. Like I'm hoping that that also helps the situation. So we will see. I'm not a mundane astrologer, meaning like I don't really deal with just events. That's not my specialty. I like to deal with real people and their lives. But I could not look at this, with this being my city. And I know a lot of people are interested in this topic. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this up here. Felt like I was rambling a lot at the end. I hope this makes sense. I just want to say pray for my city. I also have a meditation that I recorded that anybody can listen to and watch to help calm us during this time and help to spread the energy of goodness because we need it right now. And I will see you next time, hopefully not for a crisis. Thank you for watching.